I generally don't revise as I go, other than making corrections for a critique group, either before I take my pages or after I get their feedback. Um, and I've got a case right now where they were giving me feedback that my male protagonist in this romance isn't swoon worthy, essentially. Like he was being kind of too passive. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized they were right. And so that's a pretty big change. And that happens sometimes when I don't fully understand my character. But as I started trying to make him more active, I had to think about what he wants because the goal that he's after is what's going to push him into being proactive, not passive or reactive. And so initially, when you first meet this hero, Charlie, he doesn't come in until probably the fifth or sixth chapter. Um, and the first time you're meeting him, you're in, actually, no, he comes in about chapter four, but you are in Ruby's point of view. Like you're not seeing and thinking what Charlie is. So you don't get his point of view until about chapter six. Um, so I started making some changes, and this is where this is what initially I had, and I normally won't read a full page, but I want you to see what I changed and why, because some you can keep and some it doesn't serve you to keep. So Charlie, one time and one time only, I drank so much at a college party that I puked. It was only once because I learned my lesson. I'm generally good about learning my lesson the first time on anything, with one exception, Ruby Ramos. Ruby is the worst thing for my system, and yet no matter how bad the side effects are, I keep coming back for more. I got hooked on her the first time I ever got a hit of her smile, and I've never recovered. The way addiction works as an analogy for my feelings for Ruby is both on point and depressing, especially today when I'm hearing about Ruby's meeting. When I'm sure hearing about Ruby's roommate meeting is only going to suck, but I'm walking into the library with a smile on my face because I'll take Ruby hurting me over no Ruby at all. So, what this does do is give us a clear sense of how much he likes Ruby, how much he wants Ruby. But it's also giving us this, and I was going for yearning and pining, but really he's kind of coming off a little bit just pathetic. Um, and so we're going to go on just a little bit. Not that she'd ever intentionally hurt me, and I guess that's exactly why I can't quit her. I key in the code to the employee entrance and walk into the library offices to drop my backpack at my desk. Ruby's stuff isn't here. I start my opening routine, and then Ruby pops her head into the storage room. Charlie Bucket, she says. Ruby Slippers, I answer. This is how bad I've got it. I hate the nickname Charlie Bucket. He's the sad sack kid who wins the golden ticket to Wonka's factory. And yeah, he's the hero in the end, but he's nice. So nice and boring. But have I ever told Ruby that? No. I just accepted the nickname because it was from her, and I gave her a nickname that sounds like it's not that deep, except it is. Because like Dorothy's ruby slippers, Ruby dazzles, she's magic, a red hot gem. I don't ask about the roommate meeting. She texted me a follow up last night that said they'd trapped her into a love bet. It's the last thing I want to hear about, but it's the first thing she's going to tell me. Sure enough, she starts right in. So, what we have right here is the first time we're in Charlie's POV, we're very much getting that he's into her. That's not a question. But what we're also seeing is that he's just letting everything happen. That he doesn't want to hear about this meeting, but he's going to hear about it anyway. And so, um, I realized that my critique group was right. He really does have to be a lot more proactive. And so I started over, and now chapter two is Charlie. And I kept the part about how Ruby is kind of his addiction. Um, but now, where chapter one used to open with her coming home from work, and then her roommates are like, we're going to take over your love life now because we saw about the engagement post that has you so upset. Um, chapter 1 now opens with Ruby and Charlie, who are going to be the focus of our book, and her finding out when she's having lunch with Charlie about her ex's engagement, and her reacting to that, Charlie being a good friend for her. But now we're going to get what Charlie really thinks about it. So we're now right in chapter 2 in his point of view, and we've already seen him and Ruby together. So now what he's saying is he's leaving uh, the room where they had lunch to go put his stuff away. So we get through the whole addiction part. The way addiction works so well as an analogy for my feelings for Ruby is usually depressing, but not today. I use the excuse of putting my lunch stuff in my car to get the extreme pep in my step out of my system where Ruby can't see me. I'm not peppy, and I don't want her wondering why I'm practically doing a TikTok dance through the parking lot after she broke the news of her idiot ex getting engaged. If ever a dude didn't deserve Ruby Ramos, it's her ex. I'd begun to lose faith that she would ever see it, but she did, and the day she dumped him had been the high point of the year, until today. Because I've kept a toe in the door since she dumped her ex 6 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days ago. Today, it's time to fling it open. Or maybe tomorrow. Have to give her a night to herself to get herself really worked up and decide on her inevitable next step, dating. I've been watching and waiting for Ruby to be ready to move on. So here he's waiting again, which sounds passive, but there's a difference. So he continues, not that she's been pining or anything. She seems to see her ex for what he is. And so he goes through to kind of explain this ex, um, and how even though Ruby seems to see him clearly, she hasn't really shown any interest in moving on. So now he says her eruption today over that post is the first positive movement I've seen since she dumped him. She's not ticked because she wants him back. It's because in Niles' head, he's going to see being engaged as winning. Ruby doesn't think it's a victory for Niles, but she'll know he thinks it's a victory, and that is what bugs her. Ruby is the funniest, sexiest woman I've ever known, also the most competitive. It's going to take her a matter of days to decide that she's ready to date, if for no other reason than to make sure her ex knows she's moved on. And so then he strolls back to the library, and he's going to end this scene. I spend more time with Ruby than anyone else, and now, as she wakes up from her post-Niles hibernation, I'm going to spend all our waking hours together helping her realize that Niles is her past, but I'm her present and her future. Okay, so we don't know exactly what he has planned, but we do know that he's going to be more proactive now. So now we know how he feels about it. We know that there's been some pining for her. We know that he's been waiting, but it's been a strategic waiting, more out of kind of respect for her and her needing to heal, and because he knows her really well and he's been reading this situation, which is very different than the previous version of Niles where you first meet him and he's like moping because Ruby's going to come tell him about, oh, my roommates are setting me up on these dumb dates that I don't even want to go on. And now he's got a plan, and when Ruby lets him know that, oh, they have a plan to set her up on these dates, it's creating a complication for him in achieving his goal, which is getting Ruby to recognize that they're really meant to be together. Of course, in a non-toxic and non-patriarchal type of way. So it did require a lot of rewriting. I had to do like a week of thinking, clipping, pasting, thinking, deleting, and I'm still going to have to delete more of the more passive version of Charlie, but I was able to keep kind of a lot without having to rewrite it, so it's okay. In doing all of that, it helped me figure out what Niles actually wants, which it made my job so much easier. Now I know where the rest of the story is going.